Welcome to the channel. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Join me on today's video where we will be catching up with the Thorn GMT Diver. As you guys are aware, I did an unboxing and a review on the watch, but I did say I'd come back to evaluate the watch and also look at the movement in a lot more detail. It gave me a chance to obviously wear the watch, test it out, and give you my full and final thoughts on it. Now, how have I got on with the Thorn? Surprisingly well. I expected a lot less than what I've got for it, and this may well be the best value GMT diver available on AliExpress. So why do I think that? Well, let's talk about the movement. As in the review, I did cover all the visuals, etc., and a couple of QC issues. So let's go ahead. Let's tell you how I got on with the movement. Now, I did put the watch on the time grapher. This movement does have some really tight tolerances. Now pay attention to the B error between the 4 different movements or positions. The B error did not fluctuate. It remained between 0 and 0.1. Now, how does that compare to like the Seiko NH35? The beat error does fluctuate a lot more between the 4 different positions on those movements. Now, accuracy on wrist, now this has been giving me around plus 5 seconds a day, so very impressed with the movement. I've also set up the GMT function and that does work brilliantly. There's been no issues with it at all, and you know what, it's been actually quite a nice watch to wear. It's had a few comments as well. It does stand out on your wrist, definitely, and I do really like, as I mentioned, you know, how well Thorn have homaged the Seiko LX Landmaster series. So let's talk a little bit about the QC issues I experienced. Now, in the review I showed that this did have a bit of black paint smudging on the bezel inset, and before I even went back to Thorn, asked them about a bezel inset, I just literally used my nail and tried scratching it off, and it did come off, thankfully. So as you can see, the bezel inset is now absolutely fine. There's no paint smudging on there. And the other issue I mentioned was the bezel rotation. Now, a couple of things about the bezel. Now, it does have a bit of playback and there is no consistency in the rotation. You do have some hot spots on the bezel rotation, and you know, it is sometimes slightly jammy. It does take a bit of torque to get started, so it isn't as fluid or consistent as I'd like it. However, it does function, it does work. It is actually quite well built. There is no other lateral play. There's no bounce in the bezel itself. Even the construction of the bezel is to quite a good quality, and I love the bezel insert. You know, you don't really see these style of inserts coming out from AliExpress, maybe because it's just a bit too much work, isn't it? But the fact that they have gone to these lengths to get the bezel insert right, that's good. The pip has been applied really well as well. It has been placed inside a really lovely polished frame. Now, these cutouts have also been done extremely well. The bezel rotation, it isn't the same across the PVD. You know, bear in mind I only have 2 models here. It could vary amongst the stainless steel versions as well, but for example, the rotation on here is a lot better. This is something that I would actually prefer. There is some backplate still, but the rotation is just a lot easier. It's a lot more consistent as well and a bit more fluid. But you know, these things do happen when it comes to these bezels, so this is something they need to really sort out. Now, it may be as simple as just changing that retention wire that holds the bezel in. Go ahead, let's show you setting off the GMT hand. So I think the way I found it quite easiest was to set the time first. So you just hack the movement and then set whatever time you want to set. What did throw me off, now imagine I've set the time at 7:30. Now, because that GMT hand is just off the marker, now when you do go through setting the GMT hand, it will be offset. It won't sit in the center of the marker. So that did kind of throw me off until I figured it out. So we've just got to get it just to show you to a time where it's in the center of the marker. So I'd say 10 p.m. would do. So there's your time's been set, and then with the hand, there we go, perfectly centered. And you do have a 24-hour GMT function, so you need to set it around here. If it's 6 a.m. you need to put the GMT hand there. Of course, if it's 6 p.m. set it on the 1800. So I'm very impressed how good the movement is, and as mentioned, the Hangzhou 6460 is a very reliable movement because effectively it's an Eto clone which has been modified to include the GMT function. Now another thing to mention while we are looking at the movement is that there is a date function in the movement. However, because you can't see the date cutout window on the dial, you actually can't hear it. So when you click into position A, I don't know if you can hear that, but there is a click. So, you know, not only a ghost position for the date, they still have left the date wheel in. Now, the reason they probably haven't gave us a date window, because it's a 28.5mm dial. It's a bit of a generic, you know, Seiko style dial, and maybe the ETA date window is slightly off. So I don't know if they've tested that. However, I don't mind the fact that there is no date window. I do like the symmetry of the dial that is on display. But yeah, this is worth noting in case you think, what's that sound? So I still would be careful rotating the crown clockwise in that 10 p.m. to like 2 a.m. Sort of position, because that can cause damage to your movement. Now, I guess that still leaves one more question. Which color would you go for, the stainless steel or the PVD? Now, I had the same problem, so I actually went for both just to check them out. Now, what I will say is the PVD watch looks just so much better. I'd say the color combination along with that coating just seems to suit the watch a lot more, and it just looks just a lot better. It's something which personally suits my taste a bit more. Now, while I am careful with my watches, you know, I go about my daily business, whatever I'm doing, I don't take them off for any particular activity. So, you know, my watch will get worn. I do end up with the odd damage here and there. And if that is your concern, then I'd definitely go for the stainless steel one. If, however, you are very careful of your watches and, you know, they don't get a lot of use, you've got quite a decent collection, so you're only going to wear this now and then I'd definitely go for the PVD. That way the coating will stay intact for a lot longer, obviously. So, you know, it is a tough decision, but just use that as a guide, you know, depending on how you use your watches. So just to quickly summarize the good points versus the negatives. So the specifications are good, although on the sapphire crystal I feel the AR coating is just slightly excessive. The bezel quality is great, the rotation not so much. It's going to be 50-50. It is going to be a hit and miss. The case finish is spot on, really nice case. It's not too thick as well. And the crown movement, the functionality on that side is brilliant. There's no complaints on that on these watches that I've had. The lume is great on the watch, and the bracelet, again, slight bit of room for improvement. You know, they've made sure, you know, the core things are done to a good level. Just a shame about the consistency of the bezel. Having said that, all in all, for £120, $160 odd, they have really done well with this watch, and I do highly recommend this watch. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section, see how you feel about it. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you on the next video.